Hi guys, welcome back to Just Talking, where I talk at you sometimes listen. Today we're discussing some of the history and also reviewing the big one at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, which is located along the northwest coast of England. And I really do enjoy the history of this park, and I've done some other videos on the rides at the park and also reviewed it, so if you want to check them out, do. And if you like this content, make sure to comment, like and subscribe, and let's get into the background and the history of the ride. So, it's a steel hypercoaster that was engineered by Aerodynamics and was designed by a man named Ron Toomer. It was opened in 28th of May 1994 as the tallest roller coaster, being 235 feet above sea level and 213 feet in height of track, and it was claimed to be the steepest at a 65-degree turn and claimed to be the fastest at 85 miles per hour in the world. Although it wasn't, it was by a different coaster, I believe in America, and I can't remember the name of that. It was something like Steel Phantom. And it was sponsored by Pepsi Max until 2011, and after the sponsorship they did allow for the Pepsi Max can tunnel to still be allowed to be situated at the front of the chain lift. So you can still see that, and people do often still call it the Pepsi Max Big One. And it cost the park $12 million to build this roller coaster. And since then, the coaster has been retracked multiple times by different companies, such as a company that was situated in Greater Manchester. After the closure of Aerodynamics in 2001, they did file for bankruptcy in 1985, and the last known appearance of the company was on that date. There is no specific date as to when the company closed. If you'd like to see more on the history of it, I will do a separate video on this. But the look of the coaster is... it's so grand. It overlooks the whole of the Pleasure Beach and also the whole of Blackpool as a collective. And it's got the iconic blue, white and red steel track. And it does really loom above the whole area, but not in a negative way. It has this really iconic appearance with the way it stretches out. Instead of curving into the actual theme park, it sort of outlines the front side of it that overlooks the front. And of course that does allow for great views on the ride, but also it means that it's this thing that everyone can see, and as you drive up and around Blackpool, you know that you're in Blackpool when you see this coaster. Of course you will be able to identify it by the tower, but this really is an iconic piece. Furthermore, the station is very great because I can't exactly remember who actually engineered this, but because it needs to have quite a small footprint due to the size of the park, it does actually have this holding area at the side and also underneath. So basically the train actually has two separate tracks, and basically the tracks go underneath each other and swap out. This is similarly seen in Icon, although it does have a bigger station where it has a holding track on the inside and it switches from underneath up into the normal station. And of course it does have a very small footprint, and it does also resemble a can in a sort of way. And of course this wasn't intended, but I suppose it does very much fit with the branding, and I do really like the sleek style because it does allow for a nice long queue line outside of it, and also a relatively sized one on the inside, but it also allows for up to 2, I believe, trains to be stored in there. At times they can even hold 3, but I believe they only store 2 in there now due to some of the throughput issues. And the ride experience, in my opinion, is very basic, but the thing is it's not meant to be intense or thrilling, because at the time, when it opened in 1994, they hadn't really experimented with tall coasters and inverted elements to them. And of course, they really wanted to keep it relatively simple to stick with the family sort of image that the park had, and they do still try to maintain that, although they do have some very thrilling rides such as Infusion, Revolution and also Icon now at the park. But of course, once you scale the 213 foot tall chain lift, you do reach the 65-degree incline turn, which sends you into the first drop down. Of course, there is no inverts in the coaster, but this of course does actually, in my opinion, not feel too forceful, because the way that the wind sometimes flows, it can actually streamline the coaster and mean that you're not being whipped with wind or anything. And I feel like if it went down into the front of the coast, then of course you would start to feel that, and I think that really does even out the gravity that you feel on the ride. And of course after that you do then go up this part of the ride here into the first sort of steep incline, and that's of course just to level out the speed, because at this point you will reach 85 miles per hour on a faster sort of wind day, where the coaster does run a bit faster, but it's really temperate. It can go from 75 miles an hour to 85 miles an hour. It really depends. And then after you've gone through that, you go into what I would class as an over and bank turn. It sort of hooks around the area where the casino building is and the Noah's Ark is, and you can get some really nice views of the fly machines and Grand National. Of course, at the speed that you're going, it's very hard to take a minute to look to the side and see everything, but I really do like this turn. This is one of the things that made me go on this ride, is because I really wanted to experience what that turn was like on the inside, and just feeling like my arms are flowing off the side. And this is, in my opinion, the best element, better than the first drop. I'm not too sure why I like it so much, but there's something so satisfying about going in that perfect loop and ducking beneath the original track that you came through on. I just really like this bit of the ride, and I think it's a really nice piece of engineering, because not only does it feel great, but it also looks amazing from the outside. Then, of course, once you've gone through that, you go into 2 drops just to level out the speed. And then you'll go into a set of sort of trim breaks where you go through a helix. And then through the area where the Pleasure Beach Express runs, around the prehistoric area with the saber-toothed tigers. Down a little tunnel and back into the final breaks and into the station. Of course, I think the track is really well placed, because I don't believe they were aiming for it to be like an intense ride in any form. Of course, I wanted the thrill of it being so tall and fast, but they did still want to maintain its family image, and they still wanted it to be acceptable for families, because of course at the time there wasn't too many coasters like this. It was the tallest in the world, and people would of course be reluctant to go on it. So if they did add any sort of inversions or intense elements, it might put people off due to its sheer intensity and height. And I do think that what they did with it is really good, because now that it's so simple, it can attract people, and it doesn't give you any sort of headache from going on it, in my opinion. And of course, it depends on where you sit, but I think that anywhere where you really sit, you're not going to feel any pain from riding it. And of course, I do really like the design of the trains, and with the new sort of retracking, which is actually about here now, I think the track has really made it smoother, and you can tell when you're on the new track because you can't hear the train whirring past, and it sort of flows and sounds a bit like Icon does on its track. And I do really like the way they've retracked it and made it smoother and a bit wider in some of the areas, especially by the bit where the Pleasure Beach Express will be, because they did retract that, I believe, in the 2019 off-season for 2020, and yeah, I really do appreciate that area. Of course, the merchandise I do think is quite good, because they do stick to the retro theme where it used to have the sort of rainbow cars, and they do also have some pretty bland merch that doesn't showcase, like, oh, I've been on this ride, or oh, I scaled the big one and things like that, which I quite like, because I like merchandise that you can wear as a normal piece of clothing. I will do an Icon review and talk about that merchandise, because that's my personal favourite ride range. Of course, you can get some of the ride parts. Here's a big piece of the Big One track, so that's where about the wheels would go. So that's £150 for that big piece of track. I believe both of these are still in stock. And here's a larger piece of that Big One track, and it's 180 centimetres, and that's £550. Of course, that is like almost 2 metres of track, and I think that's a relatively okay price to say it's like pure steel, and that is the iconic coaster track that the ride has actually gone on for probably multiple years. Of course, some of the track will actually be from 1994, because of course not all of the bits have been retracked, and really they've only really had to do paint jobs, because they did design it in a way that the paint should stay on during wind and rain, and also so that the steel wouldn't wear down as much. And of course they are in the process of retracking almost a full thing. The Big One Navy Car Notebook, this features the original sort of train car design with the rainbow along the side and the white train. I do believe this is lined and has like a logo in the bottom corner as some of the other notebooks do. I really do like this one because it's a sort of hardback one. And the thing is normally with hardback ones, it's kind of hard to keep the page flat, but I found with this one it was a bit easier to make sure that the book was flat and it didn't sort of curve the pages, so I thought this was quite an alright one. And to say it's £6.95. I think that's pretty good for branded merchandise. Here is the new 3D car model for the 1994 train. This is £80 and it comes pre-built. You can get the Nano Coaster one for about £30. And I do believe they're aiming to get a full train model set up, which will be over £100. And I do quite like this one because the thing is it's sort of a hard plastic model, so it's not like it's cheap feeling, and it is really detailed, and I do quite like this, but I would like to see one of the new train cars be made into one of these 3D models. The big one cap, there is multiple versions of these. Some of them have just the iconic one logo, some of them have this. And they do come in a few different colours, and that's £11.95. Of course, these do come with the fabric straps around the back, so you can adjust it customizably. The big one red mug, this can come in a blue as well. This is quite a big volume. It is a very big mug, which is why it really should just have big on it, because it is massive. So you can hold a lot of drinks in there, and it is sort of built for things like tea and coffee. And of course it does have the one as the handle right there. And that is £12.95. You do also have the big one t-shirt. I'm not a fan of this one necessarily. This is £7 at the minute due to a sale. There is some drinkware offers online. Of course I don't believe they're in store in the park. But the big one t-shirt is normally £14.95 for adults. There are separate prices for kids on these sorts of things. But I'm not a big fan of this because I'm not a big fan of blue shirts with like sort of sticker logos on them. But I suppose it's each to their own. And I have seen a lot of people wearing these shirts and a lot of people buying them. And I suppose it's nice for kids to be able to have merchandise for a pretty big coaster, and quite a big sort of achievement to have is going on that ride because of, you know, how tall and menacing it is. So I suppose that's always a nice bit of merchandise for younger people. And then you of course have the Navy Car kids hoodie, which is £24.95. The adults one is about £28. And of course it does feature the retro sort of train car as seen here. And it is in a nice navy. I really do like this hoodie. All of them come with a sort of fleecy material on the inside, so I think these are really comfortable. And of course you do have the big one retro car t-shirt, and that ranges between £12.95 and £14.95 based on which size you choose. I really like this one because it's sort of like textured sort of grey with the, of course, iconic 1994 train car sort of coming across. I do really like this one because it's a simplistic design, and I think they are stepping the merchandise up with a sort of simplistic minimalist style where it's not too in your face what sort of ride you've been on, and it sort of looks like something that you'd get out your wardrobe and wear every single day instead of it being like a collector's piece. Let's talk about the symbolism of the ride. Of course, in a lot of the Blackpool skylines, it is always featured the big one. You can see it right here, and of course you can see the Tango Ice Blast launch tower there, as well as the Blackpool Tower, and also the Ferris wheel that's on the pier that is frequently seen in the BBC's sort of standby screens. And of course, a lot of people are proud of this in Blackpool. It's a feat of engineering. It was the world's tallest and steepest at one point, and that was something that people were really proud of, and they should be, because, you know, it was the innovator for all taller coasters. Like, you have things like Goliath and all these sorts of other coasters that, you know, are sort of course inspired by this because they wanted to beat the record that the big one set. And of course now you have these incredible feats of roller coaster engineering where there's more frills and there's more inversions in these coasters that do reach these sorts of heights, and it's more common to see them. And of course people are very proud of this, and it's a true image of Blackpool, not because you can see it from a long distance necessarily and because, you know, people can identify Blackpool by it, but because, you know, it's a symbol of, you know, Blackpool. It's their culture. Like, they are willing to break the boundaries of engineering and be innovative and creative with their ideas. And of course, it is on such a small lot. Like, the park hasn't got the biggest amount of space. The rides are perfectly intertwined. And of course, making a coaster that's this long and this tall and wide, and it's truly incredible because they managed to fit it on the footprint and even get the station that can hold all of the pretty long trains, because they can hold like 12 to 20 people on them, and that's really great. And still manage to get a great throughput on it as well. So you then also have the impact that it has on like younger people. Like kids will go on school trips to the pleasure beach and all go on the big ones, and they can all say, "Oh, I went on the big one," and people will still continually buy photos, even though they can actually at points get to 11,000 people on the ride per hour because of the throughput of the ride at the minute, which is absolutely staggering numbers. And that's really a figure that just amazes me, because of course the rest of the park has incredible throughput, but the potential to put that many people through the ride is incredible. Of course it hardly is ever met due to the amount of people in the park, but it is really great that they can do that. And of course people will buy those pictures even though loads of people have been on the ride before them. And, I think that's a true sign of how much respect and amazement people have for the ride. And I think it is truly incredible that even though it's got a basic track, people still believe that it's this truly thrilling and iconic piece of British history. And I really do enjoy the ride. And I think it's something that I could go on multiple times without, feeling, oh, I'm getting a bit bored of this, because it's got beautiful views and it's got all of the thrilling elements that you could possibly want for a ride that doesn't have any inversions, and its embankments are smooth and well placed, and I think it really did have a lot of thought and care put into it during its construction. And yeah, that's really it for this video. If you do like my content, please make sure to comment, like and subscribe. I've been very happy on my recent video with the 104 views I've got so far. I'm really happy with that. I've never seen numbers like that in my life. But yeah, thank you so much for responding to my videos, commenting, liking. I'm really grateful for all the support. If you would like to see a history video on the big one, I know a lot of facts about it. I've watched a lot of documentaries on it. So if you would like to see that, I will be able to get that done for you probably tomorrow. So yeah, if you did like this video, yeah, like, comment, subscribe, do what you want. I really don't mind. I'm just really grateful. And yeah, this was just talking. Bye bye.